panel about legal resources for immigrants and refugees in the Bluegrass area. First of all, before I start introducing people, we have an important immigration law update that merits immediate attention, and I would like for Leah Engel, Director and Immigration Attorney with Maxwell Street Legal Clinic, to talk about it. The floor is yours.
Great. Well, it looks like from everyone's reactions that it seems like most people already know, but the Supreme Court decision in the DACA case did come out this morning. And the court found that the Trump administration was in fact arbitrary and capricious when they canceled the program. And so they, I don't know, I haven't read the full opinion yet, so if anybody else has more information and wants to jump in, but basically it looks like, you know, DACA is definitely surviving. I imagine we will be able to start submitting initial applications again as well. You know, obviously it doesn't mean the Trump administration won't try some more shenanigans with DACA, but at least for right now, DACA survives, and you know, it's a great day for that. It's definitely, I think, better than a lot of people were thinking from the Supreme Court. So it's a pretty exciting opinion this morning.
So yes, we're all very excited about that. Opinion is just a few hours old as far as I know. So I'm going to go ahead, and I already introduced Leah Engel, again, Director of Maxwell Street Legal Clinic and also Immigration Attorney. And then the second panelist is Emily Jones. She is an immigration attorney, senior immigration attorney with Kentucky Refugee Ministries with their legal department. And then we'll have Sarah Atkins, immigration attorney and executive director of Neighbors Immigration Clinic that just opened recently. She will talk about that. We have Lindsay Berkey. She is an attorney with Micah Legal, which focuses on family law and a few other things, and she will talk about that herself. And then we have Dominic Allbear with the Community Response Coalition of Kentucky. So this panel is a little bit to introduce what these different organizations are doing here in the Bluegrass region. Some of them are working statewide in Kentucky, to give you an idea where you can find mostly legal help, or what kind of people they're working with, you know, what kind of background the different clients have. And also a little bit about what the challenges are to work now under the pandemic, and if they're still offering services and all of that. So if you would like to start, Leah, please go ahead.
Great, thanks, Natalie. So as Natalie said, I'm Leah Engel. I'm the director of the Maxwell Street Legal Clinic. Just to start off with a little bit about Maxwell Street and kind of where we started. So Maxwell Street was founded in 1999. At that time, there really weren't any nonprofits or legal aid organizations in Kentucky who were able to provide immigration legal assistance. And so we were founded by a group of all volunteer attorneys that started initially just meeting with clients on Sunday afternoons. And we've grown from there. So in 2008, we became a program of the Kentucky Equal Justice Center. At this point, we have, I think, 5 full-time and a couple of part-time staff, and handle most forms of affirmative, humanitarian, and family-based immigration. So when I say affirmative, I mean we help people submit applications to USCIS, or U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, where they're applying for benefits. At this point, we don't take, we really just haven't had at this point, I don't think at any point we've taken a lot of them, but we haven't had the capacity to take a lot of removal proceedings cases. So we really, unfortunately, have to refer people out who are in removal proceedings, but we help people with, we do a lot of DACA. We help, and we'll get to continue doing a lot of DACA. We take a lot of naturalization cases. We help people, U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents, petition for their family members. Since 2017, we have a fairly large VOCA program. So we have funding under the Victims of Crime Act, where we have 3 staff that work exclusively with crime victims on their immigration on immigration relief that stems from their victimization. So there are a number of forms of benefits where people who have been victimized in the United States are eligible to apply for immigration relief. I think the most common that people have probably heard of is a U visa, but there's also T visa and a few other forms where, you know, people who have been victimized, who have reported their victimization, worked with law enforcement, are able to apply for status in the United States based on that victimization. What are your other questions? So we do charge some nominal fees for our non-VOCA work. So any of our crime victim work, that's completely, that's free. We don't charge any fees to our clients for that. For our other more family-based cases, so for DACA naturalization, we do charge some small fees. No one will be refused services at Maxwell Street though for inability to pay. So we're always happy to work on payment plans or waive our fees if need be. Let's see what else. We provide language access. So a lot of our staff is bilingual English and Spanish, but obviously in Lexington and beyond, there's people who speak, hundreds of different languages. So for non-English or Spanish speakers, we primarily provide telephonic interpretation. Though for in-person appointments or especially for some of our more sensitive cases, we do try and get in-person interpreters to make people feel more comfortable. Let's see, the best way to reach us. So I guess just kind of our procedure with COVID-19, we are still primarily working remotely. We do have people in the office every day, but we're closed for walk-ins still, and we're only open for in-person appointment, or we're only open for clients in person by appointment. And so the best way to reach us right now is, or actually most of the time, the best way to reach us is by telephone. So if you call us at 859-233-3840, and I think Natalie also included this in the group chat. We're happy to. We have somebody who is in the office, can answer the phone in English or Spanish. If nobody answers, because we are a little bit not in the office quite as regularly, please leave us a message with your name and phone number. Speak slowly and clearly so we can understand you. We do return all of the messages that we get, as long as we have a phone number to call back. But we don't have the capacity to be able to return missed calls. So we sometimes have people who tell us they've been trying to get a hold of us, and it's like, well, did you leave us a message? And if you don't leave us a message, unfortunately, we don't know that you're trying to get a hold of us, so we're not going to be able to call you back. But yeah, for our cases, and we are still taking new cases right now. And so the way, our process kind of starts is we do a telephone intake first with one of our legal assistants, where they just get some basic contact information and income information. We do have some income guidelines. So we take clients primarily up to 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. They get contact information and income information, and then some basics of what the potential client needs help with. Our staff, our practitioners review the intakes once a week and go through to see what cases will be able, have capacity to take at this time. And then after that, we can get people scheduled to talk to either one of our attorneys or one of our DOJ accredited reps who are non-attorneys who are authorized to practice immigration law.
So do you take volunteers Because people sometimes ask about
Yeah.
that.
Yes, we generally, so we do take volunteers, particularly, we're always on the lookout for volunteer attorneys who are interested in taking immigration cases. But then we've also been trying to develop more of at least some volunteer English tutors. So for particularly our naturalization cases, one of the requirements in order to naturalize in the United States is to be able to read, write, and speak in basic English. And so we have a number of clients who would be able to become citizens, but need some help with the language requirement. And so we've been working on developing an ESL tutoring program. Unfortunately, a lot of our volunteer, in-office volunteers, and I think to a certain extent, our tutoring volunteers have been kind of on hiatus due to COVID-19. I don't think this summer we'll be taking any in-office volunteers, but if people feel comfortable and are interested in English as a second language tutoring, we're always looking for those volunteers.
Wonderful, thank you. So for everybody, as Leah mentioned, I've copied the information and contact information of the 5 panelists into the Zoom group chat. I will post it again at the end, and after each panelist has presented, we'll be opening up for a few questions. Just post them in the chat room whenever you're ready. So I would like now to give the floor to Emily Jones, attorney at Kentucky Refugee Ministries. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for putting together this panel, Natalie. I work with Kentucky Refugee Ministries in the Immigration Legal Services department, if you call it that. A lot of my coworkers from KRM are on the call. And since I am not an expert on what they do, I will not really be talking about what KRM does more broadly as a refugee resettlement agency. I'm sure if you have questions about that, you can check out our website, and there's actually a contact us link through the website, so you can ask your resettlement questions there. I'm going to be focusing on the legal department, which started in Lexington with me in December of 2013. So we've been going almost 7 years now. We started because Maxwell Street was getting really too busy with all of our refugee clients who needed immigration assistance, as well as all the DACA and temporary protected status clients that they were seeing at the time. So we were able to start the Lexington office. We'd always had a Louisville immigration office, not always, but for a really long time. So I got going back in 2013, and it started just as we focused on our refugee clients that were coming through KRM. When you enter as a refugee, you need to adjust status to having a green card after 1 year. And then a lot of our refugee clients wanted to become citizens after 5 years. And so we had a huge number of clients that needed assistance with that. So my first cases were really around keeping our refugee clients and former refugee clients on the path to citizenship. Quickly, it became apparent that our folks also wanted to be reunited with their family members. So we developed a family-based immigration practice where we were helping clients apply to bring eligible family members to the United States. And then as things have evolved, we've picked up some other humanitarian-based immigration work. So we do asylum, both affirmative and defensive. So at KRM, we do take removal cases. We don't take cases for folks who are currently in detention. If you're picked up by ICE and you're in detention, KRM doesn't take those bond cases at this time. But if you are released from detention, we can help you defend against your removal using some of the defenses that are available, including asylum. We also do U visa cases under our new VOCA grant, or fairly new. I guess we're entering what will be our 3rd year. Yes. So it's not so new anymore, but we have the same funding that Maxwell Street has, And we use that to cover affirmative asylum, U visas, and VAWA cases. And we added last year special immigrant juvenile cases to that. So we help children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected, and who are unable to reunite with one or more of their parents. Those cases can look a couple different ways. They can be in removal as well. Children that came across the border unaccompanied might be in removal proceedings and need that protection, or children who are already in the United States who've been removed from their home because of abuse or neglect are also eligible. So we see both kinds of cases for that. We also have a really healthy citizenship program at KRM. So we have a grant from USCIS, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, to do citizenship cases. We only charge $50 for those cases because of the grant. And we also have, I believe he's on the call, a free citizenship class, which is taught by Andy, my coworker Andy. And right now, during the pandemic, that class is available online via Zoom. So if you have questions about that, we can definitely share more information about that. Let's see, what are our fees? We charge some fees. They're limited nonprofit fees, so they're not as expensive as a private immigration attorney. And some of our cases, because of the grants that we have, are free. So it would just depend on what assistance folks need. You don't have to be a refugee to come to us for immigration help. A lot of our clients are refugees just because of where we're housed, but we help all folks, U.S. citizens trying to bring family members, or immigrants that came other ways that need further immigration help. We at KRM have several staff members who are bilingual as well. One of our attorneys, well, Katie might disagree with me. I would say 2 of our attorneys speak Spanish, and I'm fluent in French, and then our legal caseworker, Daniel, speaks French. But other languages, we bring in interpreters. Right now, everything is over the phone. We're not meeting with clients in person if we can help it. We're trying to do everything through mail. We are meeting with clients over the phone, mailing them what we need signed, and having them bring it back to the office or mail it back to us during the COVID pandemic. The best way to reach us is probably right now through phone or email. My phone number is in the chat. I think, did you put my email in the chat, Natalie?
Yeah. No, I didn't put the email in the chat. I put the office phone numbers in the chat and web pages.
Okay, that'll be perfect. And like Leah said, we have the same issue of folks not leaving messages. So if you call, please leave us a message, and we will be able to get back to you hopefully pretty quickly. Daniel's checking our voicemails regularly and getting back to folks. And then as far as volunteer opportunities, through the legal office, we have a few volunteer opportunities. We have several pro bono attorney volunteers who help us with various guardianship actions and things in family court at the state level. So we coordinate some pro bono attorney volunteers. We have, when we're in the office, usually volunteers in the office helping us with like admin type work, scanning, and writing letters to folks. But right now, because we're not in the office, we don't have that opportunity. If you're interested in volunteering, contact us. We can talk about what you are interested in, and we might be able to find something for you. But as an agency, Kentucky Refugee Ministries has tons of volunteer opportunities. They're a little bit different right now because of the pandemic, but feel free to contact us, and we will try to match what your skills are with what our needs are. And I think that's all, Natalie, unless you have.
I think that's about it. Yes, you wrapped it up nicely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So at this point, I would like then to give Sarah Atkins the word. that was not proper English, but you understand what I'm saying, with Neighbors Immigration Clinic. She's an immigration attorney and also the executive director. So if you want to go ahead, Sarah, please.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah Adkins. I'm the executive director at Neighbors Immigration Clinic. I'm also an immigration attorney. I previously practiced at Maxwell Street Legal Clinic. We are a brand new nonprofit. We launched our board last year in 2019, and I came on full-time in January 2020, which 2020 has turned out to be an excellent year to start a new nonprofit, in case anyone was wondering. But we're doing okay. We are an affiliate of a national organization called National Justice for Our Neighbors, and they provide some funding and a lot of institutional support that's been really helpful. Right now, I'm the only employee, and we are hiring an attorney right now. So we should have another attorney in the office within about a month. Because I practice in Lexington, I kind of knew where some of the gaps in services was. So I've tried to shape our services around where some of the gaps are. So to that end, we're doing, we do removal work. And so people in removal proceedings, although not right now because of the pandemic, typically we would do removal proceedings. We're also going to do affirmative asylum because KRIIS does affirmative asylum, but there's generally more affirmative asylum cases than the other nonprofits have capacity to take. And then the third area of focus is on mobile clinics. So I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and there are no immigration nonprofits in Eastern Kentucky. So we're going to travel for now once a month to Eastern Kentucky to do clinics, and then also Northern Kentucky 1 weekend a month to do mobile clinics. And hopefully we can expand those as our clinic grows. We are operating and taking emergency type cases. So people that have emergent situations that can't find representation otherwise, we are willing to take on that case right now. Hopefully within a month when we get our next attorney on, we can start taking more cases within those parameters and also emergency type cases. It's just me, so we don't really have hours. I'm kind of like a 24-hour person. So whenever you call or email, you can also text the number that's in that Natalie put in the chat. We'll respond when we can. We do have fees like Maxwell Street and KRM that are largely the same as Maxwell Street and KRM, and the same applies that we serve low-income immigrants under 200% of the poverty level, and no client will be turned away for inability to pay. We provide language access, like I think Leah mentioned. I can speak Spanish, but there are tons and tons of clients in Lexington that speak other languages, and so we use telephone interpreters. Our phone number, email address, and webpage are on the chat. Volunteering is hard right now, as everyone has alluded to. If you're an attorney or you know an attorney that wants to volunteer, that's probably the easiest way for people to volunteer right now. Like everyone else has said, having a bunch of volunteers in our office is not something we're going to do right now. But if you do want to volunteer, on our website, we have a page about volunteering. You can click on it and give us your information. We'll add you to an email list, and we periodically send volunteer opportunities out in the email list so you can scan them to see if something fits your skill set and something that you want to contribute. I think I hit it all. Anything else?
Anything else you would like to add, or you think is worthy of mentioning that I haven't asked you?
Yeah, I'd say we're brand new, and so we can be pretty nimble still. Like, we don't have a huge caseload holding us down yet. And so if you do have, if an issue comes up that you think really needs attention, please call us and we'll see what we can do to help. We've been able to help some people outside of our initial focus areas because we're small and we have the ability to do that right now. So I imagine we'll start helping with DACA if people are overwhelmed with initial DACA applications and things like that. So if you have a client or if you have someone that needs help, and it doesn't always have to be immigration law related. Like, I've gotten a lot of questions from nonprofits about COVID related stuff related to immigration. that's not necessarily immigration law, but I'm always happy to help you try to find an answer. Or if I can't find an answer, I'm always happy to help you connect with someone that can help you find an answer.
All right, wonderful, thank you, Sarah. And so next I would like, so these were the 3 organizations that focus on immigration law only. And so the next person is focusing on a completely different area. So Lindsay Burke, if you would like to go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself and Micah Legal. Lindsay?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I think you were muted.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Burke. I am the attorney and executive director of Micah Legal. Micah Legal is another nonprofit law organization serving the people of Lexington, Kentucky. But as Natalie alluded, we do very different law than the 3 previous organizations. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about us and what we do. My background is in social work, and as an outreach social worker working at Lexington Rescue Mission here in Lexington, I realized that if legal aid couldn't help my client with a family law issue or with a housing issue, then it was going to be really hard to find anywhere else for them to go. And it would just kill me that we would work so hard on different problems and then reach a point where I wouldn't be able to do the thing that was needed, and there was no one who would step up and do that. And so I decided that I needed to become an attorney. And so I'm a social worker and attorney. And I talked about Micah Legal even before I went to law school, because this is a gap in services that desperately needed to be filled. And so I made good on my promises. And when I came out of law school, I started Micah Legal. The board was formed in 2016, and we began offering services in February of 2017. So we're about 3.5 years old in terms of service providing. So the areas of practice that are served by Micah Legal are family law, which is divorce, child custody, child support, and those types of issues. We also do estate planning. For many of my clients, I'll refer to it as future planning, because some people will hear the words estate planning and say, oh, I don't need that. I don't have an estate. But the truth is, we all need to think about our future. And especially if you've got children or parents or someone who might need caregiving, it's important to leave documents to help others know what you would like to happen. So we do estate planning or future planning. And we also do expungements for people who have a criminal background that is long in the past and they haven't had recent issues. And maybe they're having trouble getting some employment or housing because of something that happened 10 or 15 years ago. We definitely believe in second chances here. And so I am committed to helping people get through the expungement process. We also do other types of law by arrangement. So people are welcome to come to me with a different legal issue and ask if that's something I'd be able to help with. If I'm not personally able to do it, then I will help connect you to someone that will be able to do that. Our Micah Legal is based on a sliding fee structure. So what that means is that we serve people anywhere from below the federal poverty guidelines up to 400% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is really very middle income. Some of you on the call may even qualify. I know my husband and I do, and we're both legal aid attorneys, so to speak. So this is really covering a much broader section economically of our community. And part of what is making this model successful is that there are people who earn decent livings but can't swing that $250 an hour rate for a market rate attorney. And so they may want to do a living will or a power of attorney or an estate plan, and they want to do it in a way that they know will help other people. So our fees go as low as $15 an hour. And there are even ways that we can make accommodations when people say, I would love to do that, but it's simply not possible. So we do have a broad array of ways to help people afford their cases. but on average, my clients pay $25 an hour. Our clients come from a broad cross-section of Fayette County. We have people literally from the downtown core all the way out to the trailer parks on the edge of the county. We have people from all different racial and ethnic backgrounds. I'd say it's about 50% Caucasian, 30% African American, and then the other 20% from all the different nationalities that are represented here and diverse backgrounds. When language interpretation is needed, which is fairly often, we either provide someone here in the office if we're doing a face-to-face meeting and that's possible, or if we're not able to get an interpreter in that specific language to be in the office, we'll use a telephone service. The best way to reach Micah Legal is either by calling us on the phone, leaving a voicemail if necessary, or giving us an email. That's a fine way to reach out. You can actually reach out through our website. There's one of those fill in the blank portals you can use if you need to. Like all the other nonprofit law organizations, we're trying to make it work with not having the office open as we're used to and not being able to entertain people in our space as often as we are accustomed to. However, a lot of people are doing well with the digital format. Many of my clients say, oh, I can use Facebook portal, or I'm really good on Google, let's do Google. So there are a lot of different ways that clients have been able to utilize technology. There are some folks, though, for whom that's just not really feasible, whether it's because of disability, finances, language access. Sometimes it just doesn't work over the computer or over the phone. And so I love to make the office available for any time that that's necessary. We are also struggling to find the ways to plug our volunteers in digitally. I used to have people answering the phone here almost every day of the week, and they really enjoyed participating. And it's been a challenge to try and find meaningful ways for them to connect. I do think, as everyone has said, it'd be great to have some volunteer attorneys, and I'm eager for the law students to come back and participate in the ways that was useful to them, but also useful to us.
I think everybody can sign on to that.
Micah Legal, someone I see in the chat, Santana, you've asked if we can do estate planning outside of Fayette County. We are currently only signing cases in Fayette County, and that's because I'm the only attorney right now. However, I'm very hopeful that we're going to be hiring a second attorney before the end of the summer. I have taken applications, and there is a young woman in mind who would just be an incredible fit. She is fluent in more than one language and has the right background to really understand and appreciate the issues facing the clients of Micah Legal. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to expand our services because the demand is very high, and it will just be awesome to be able to serve more clients and do more good in the community. So Natalie, I do thank you for including us in this panel, and I'm happy to share any more information that anyone needs, either through chat, or if you want to call or give me an email, I'm happy for that. No, we don't. I see a question. We do not do immigration cases at this time. I always like to refer to the partner organizations, and I'm so grateful that the number of organizations meeting that need is growing, but that's not our area of expertise, and so I'd want to get them into the best and most competent hands possible.
And so I will post the information about all the panelists, and the first three organizations do immigration law only. I will post it again towards the end into the chat so people can get information there and contact any of those. For the immigration attorneys, does anybody want to say something about expungement in immigration law, or who volunteers? Emily, go ahead, please. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Quickly, there was a question about 200% of the poverty guideline in immigration cases. KRM does not have to do the poverty evaluation for all of our cases. So we can help people that make more than 200% of the poverty level. So just putting that out there. As far as expungements go, and I'm sure Lindsay knows this, if you are an immigrant with less than US citizenship, so if you have not yet gotten your citizenship, and even if you are thinking that maybe you will later want to become a citizen, or maybe you're thinking that later you're going to want to apply for a green card, an expungement of your criminal record will pose great difficulty for the adjudication of your immigration case. And so unfortunately for folks, they really need to hold on to those criminal records until they become a citizen. Expunging things off your record does not help you for the purposes of immigration. It may help you for the purposes of getting a job or something else, but it will actually hurt you for the purposes of immigration. So if you know folks who are not yet citizens who are thinking about expungement, they need to definitely consult an immigration attorney before they move forward with that, because it could cause a lot of problems.
All right, thank you, Emily. So finally, we will move to talk to Dominique, or listen to Dominique Olberg. Thank you so much for your patience and listening to everybody else first. Dominique, if you are here, please go ahead. Lindsay Mattingly, can you see if Dominique was kicked off maybe?
Oh, here it is. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Sorry about that. So I am Dominique Olberg, and I'm president of the board for the Community Response Coalition of Kentucky, which is a relatively new 501c3. We started as a program in 2018. We became our own nonprofit last year. And our primary mission is to help individuals and families negatively impacted by immigration enforcement. So very often, for instance, if somebody is taken in by ICE, they are the major breadwinner in the family, and they leave behind a family that has no means of support. And so we come in and we help them through that crisis period because we're an emergency service. And one of the things we do, and I would say it's one of our top priorities, is connect them to good legal help if they need it, and see other forms of assistance that they need to have in order to make it to the next couple of months. So we're a connector hub to different agencies. We're a referral center for people who need it, particularly with immigration lawyers. And full disclosure, I'm also on the board of the Neighbors Immigration Clinic, as well as frequently in contact with KRM. So those are the two main places that we refer to because they've got great lawyers and they're reputable. Sometimes we get families coming in that are working with immigration lawyers that we know from past experience have really had a detrimental effect on families' lives. So in those situations, we recommend that they go to a different agency such as KRM or NIC and get a second opinion. But generally speaking, we're there to give them support with whatever they need, whether it's getting diapers, getting food, paying a month of rent, whatever they need, we step in. We've also been involved sometimes, and this has been a smaller part of our work, but helping with DACA renewal fees. It's absolutely wonderful that DACA is still in place. But I don't know, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that they lowered the fees for renewing it, right? So there is an impossibly high bar placed for that. So there's always ways that we have to kind of wiggle into the legal system to supplement what is not available for people. So our clients are mostly Latinx clients. I would say generally from places like Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, but we've had people from Taiwan, Belize. We get people from a little bit everywhere. We do have interpretation services for our volunteers because we're all volunteer run. 100% of our staff is volunteers. And some of them speak Spanish, some of them don't, some of them speak French, some of them don't. So we are highly reliant on a interpretation service. And as of last week, we now also have a bilingual receptionist service because people were getting frustrated leaving messages and not believing we would call them back. And now there's an actual human being to complain to, which is great. And I think really is helping our clients as well as personally me, because I don't get 40 calls a day. But I do think that that's an important aspect of working with this community. You have to be accessible. And if you yourself don't speak Spanish or French or whatever the language is, you have to have an infrastructure for people to communicate with you. So the best way to reach us is through our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-674-9217. Extension 1 for emergencies, extension 0 for other issues. You can also email us at crcforme@icloud.com. And our website has a list of resources for people who don't qualify for government assistance and need help during COVID-19. Because during this COVID-19 emergency, we've taken a sidestep. We feel like we need to keep our clients from getting evicted and starving before they can even deal with immigration issues, because so many of them have no access to the very small sources of relief that citizens do. And so we're there to assist them. And it's not just people who may not have documents, it's also US citizens who are married to immigrants that are going through the process and are therefore automatically disqualified from getting relief. Or UK students who are here on an F1 visa and can't get a job anywhere but UK. Well, UK is not hiring because UK has financial difficulties. So we're an agency that helps people deal with the impact of all these legal decisions and help people and their family members negotiate their way to more stability. In terms of challenges that we're facing during the pandemic, there have been many. So we went from handling maybe, 3 to 8 cases a month to 70 a month. We went from having 4 or 5 regular intake workers to having somewhere around 30 because we have so many people call. And even the people that we don't help out with rental or utility assistance may need a referral to someplace that we know. And even if they're not in our catchment area, even if they're not an immigrant who doesn't qualify for assistance, of course we're going to help them. We do what we can. I think because our staff is all volunteers, they are, they're really only there to help. So we will help in any way we can if we know an answer to something. And sometimes we can't help, but most of the time we can refer people to places who can help when we can't. We are still operating during the pandemic. We're doing everything online. So anybody who wants to volunteer, everything is online. There's no health risk. Woohoo! And actually, it's given quite a few of our volunteers a meaningful way to contribute. It is a profoundly meaningful intervention to be able to step into somebody's life and say, hey, you know what? I can help you with rent for this month. You're not going to get thrown on the street. We can help you, get a bridge to stability. It's not fluffy work. It's also a time commitment. So if anybody's interested, please understand that there's an interview and there's background check because we have a very vulnerable population, and we do expect people to handle at least a case a week, and a case can take 1.5 to 3 hours. So and I have to say, half of it is talking to people and half of it is paperwork. I won't lie. Paperwork is an important part of helping people. We can't get around it. It's not glamorous, but it's there. in terms, I was going to talk about how we are preparing for the potential impact of DACA on our organization. I am beyond thrilled that we can take that off the table, other than helping to pay for fees. But you know, there are so many. The law is changing every day, as I'm sure everybody at KRM, NIC, and Micah, and you know, other organizations can tell you. So we're trying to keep and Maxwell,
Maxwell Street.
We're trying to keep abreast of changes because we're so small and because we're all volunteer-based. Just like NIC, we're very nimble. So if there's something that we hear in the news one day, I call up our executive committee. By the end of the week, the board has voted on it, and we can move forward, which is quite a gift. But we do face challenges because we went from helping 3 to 8 people a month to 70. So we went from having, well, I think we raised something like $26,000 last year, and now we've raised more than $100,000 because we've spent 10 times what we spent last year. So, you know, helping people, thank you, helping people with rents and with utilities is not cheap. So our major problems, or our major challenges, because so far, to be honest, we've gone for much longer than we expected to because of community support. Our major challenges have been fundraising and also getting more qualified volunteers to help us. I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Dominique, for your contribution and for doing this amazing work that you're doing. So there are a few questions here. For example, and I know everybody can read answers that some people of you have already provided, but maybe not everybody saw it. So one question was, is there, as a citizen, is it still possible to request, probably it means to petition for a foreign family member from a different country, or is that not possible because of COVID? So maybe one of the immigration attorneys wants to take that question. Emily, go ahead.
Okay, I responded in the chat, but you can still apply to bring family members to the United States. However, I would anticipate that it's going to be taking a little bit longer than usual, and that you should expect delays. Right now, many of the U.S. embassies abroad are still closed due to COVID-19. So that means that even if you get past the USCIS step of that process, when you get to the embassy process, they're going to be backlogged because they've been closed due to COVID. So it's still possible. It just might take longer. That has not been stopped. Also, flights in and of themselves are really difficult right now. So if someone already has a visa or already has a visitor visa, it may be difficult to get into the country right now because of travel restrictions due to COVID and flights being canceled.
And somebody posted, I think it was Mary Cobb, pointing out that there are two pre-recorded sessions on immigration laws and issues in the YouTube channel, and those should be published. Those links should be published on the website of this conference. Maybe Lindsay Mattingly would be so nice to, post the link to that webpage. That would be great. And then here's another question from somebody. It says, I'm a US citizen currently living with my partner who's Venezuelan in Chile. We're considering moving to the US in the upcoming years, but I'm very unfamiliar with the immigration process. Is there any place to look at various ways for my partner to move to the US? We are not married, but considering. Who would like to take that answer, the question? Leah?
Yeah, I mean, obviously immigration law is pretty complicated. I mean, the USCIS website does have some information on the system, or on how it works. It can be pretty confusing. If you're just looking for general information, we have some of that on our our website at Maxwell Street, and I imagine KRM and Neighbors does as well. Clinic is a national organization that always has reputable and good information. You may want to consider just talking to an immigration attorney before you take any steps, because really, like, every situation is very different. It is all very fact specific and individual. So while there's some good general information out there, your specific situation could potentially be more complicated.
Thank you. And then somebody else posted a question asking if the eviction moratorium has been lifted because May 31st ended. Does anybody have a response to that? Lindsay, go ahead. Thank you.
So there is no short answer to that question. It really depends on who holds the mortgage of the place. So there are multiple dates at this moment. Some evictions will begin in 2 weeks on July 1st. Evictions for public housing will begin in, I believe it's July 24th. So there are multiple dates, and it depends very fact specific on where you live, who your landlord is, who they pay their mortgage to, whether it's a federally funded mortgage or not. So unfortunately, I can't give a very specific answer without more facts. However, those dates are coming, and I expect that the eviction courts will be flooded with cases.
Thank you for that. So I reposted the information of all the panelists and web pages, and all the web pages of the different organizations do list what kind of services they provide and how to contact them. With the 3 legal clinics that provide immigration law services, they each take slightly different kinds of cases, because one of the question in the forefront these days is deportation and removal proceedings. There are only 2 nonprofit organizations in town that do that, and then one of them is Kentucky Refugee Ministries. Emily Jones presented for that, and Sarah Atkins with her new Neighbors Immigration Clinic. And so right now, there's one new question that just came in. Victoria Davies, can families get food more than one time? I guess that's the question is for Dominique Olbert, I would imagine. Can you unmute yourself? No, it won't unmute you?
There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
It will not let me unmute. Yes, you can definitely apply for food more than one time. With God's Pantry, you can get food every month. And their policies have been changing. They were accepting self-referrals for a while. I'm not 100% sure if that's still the case. If it's not, we're an approved agency. And once you're in the system the first time, all we have to do is call them and get a date for the following month. So I would definitely encourage you to do that. We're also in the process of switching over to helping families that have COVID. And for those families that need food, we're arranging for food deliveries, and we're partnering with Casa de la Cultura and Flaca, and we hope a couple of other organizations, because there's a big hole in the food delivery system for people with COVID who are at home.
Thank you. A new question came up, and I'm thinking Lindsay Berkey will be able to answer that. Evictions for non-payment are still closed and will continue to be until 30 days after the governor's order has been lifted. So it's not a question, it's a response. Evictions for lease violations and non-renewal of leases are open as of June 1st. Maybe you could explain that a little bit for us who don't understand that kind of legalese. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? There's a loud buzz saw right now.
Obstruction, yeah.
We actually can't hear the saw, so you're good.
Oh, good. Shay is right. There are different reasons to be evicted, and the the reason that was filed against you is significant at this point in time because non-payment is forbidden as a type of eviction at this moment, although that is soon to change. However, you can still be evicted if you are committing crimes in your apartment, and that's part of your lease agreement, is that you won't be engaged in criminal activity, for example. So that is, unfortunately, eviction is at a very fact-specific moment. And if you've got people who are concerned about that, I welcome them to follow up with Micah Legal.
All right, thank you so much. So we have still a few minutes left if somebody else wants to pose a question. Otherwise, remind everybody that the information about the different organizations is in the chat, so you can just follow those links and contact them through that and find out what they do through that. Shay was just asked to please provide a COVID-19 rental health site link. So hopefully that'll be posted soon. And is there anything that anybody would like to mention or add to the conversation we've had so far?
I would like to add something about DACA. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly fine, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. While this decision from the Supreme Court is really exciting and it's really good for this moment, what the decision does say is that it is in the executive's power to terminate the program as long as they do it the right way. So the way they did it the first time was not the right way. It was arbitrary and capricious. That does not mean that the administration can't come back and come up with excuses or other reasons to terminate the program and still terminate the program. So what we need to do is not sit on our laurels and be like, oh great, DACA is safe. We need actual legislation at the federal level to protect these students so that it's no longer at the whim of the executive. Okay? Also, everyone needs to vote. That's it. That's all I have.
Everybody who is a citizen needs to vote. If you're a legal permanent resident, please do not vote.
Not vote if you're not a citizen.
Or if you have any other status or no status. That can bring a lot of problems later. So, another question. So Shay did enter the COVID-19rentalhelp.org webpage. Thank you for that. Another question is, how do you help clients who are having legal issues and committed a crime and facing deportation?
So that depends on the case. If they are in detention after committing a crime and they've been transferred to ICE custody, they will need to go to another attorney to help them get bonded out of immigration detention. And that may or may not happen because some crimes are considered to be so serious that you can't be bonded out. So it would really depend on the specific circumstances of the person's issue. So if you'd like, you can have your friend or the person that you're thinking of, their family, contact one of either me or Sarah, and we can go through the facts of the case and evaluate what, if anything, can be done for that person. Like with everything, I feel like all the lawyers keep saying it's usually pretty fact specific, and so we can't give like blanket answers for things, but generally criminal actions or convictions for crimes can result in deportation, and sometimes there's a way to help and sometimes there's not. So we would just have to see the exact circumstances.
And then there was a question from Lindsay Trent. Would we contact our representative to enact this legislation? What next steps do you recommend for that?
There's a lot of different groups working on this right now. I will type a link to a organization that you can go to figure out. There's definitely legislation that's sitting on McConnell's desk right now that he's refusing to bring to the Senate floor. So I will send you in the chat a link to that organization. Yes, it's at the federal level, not the state level. Immigration's a federal program, so you wouldn't want to talk to the federal representatives about this.
One person asked, for people passionate about immigration issues, what ways do you suggest that they stay informed on these types of policies?
All right, Jessica, asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
Question.
So this is hard, right? Because it is changing every single day. I feel like it's really important to watch the news and to stay on top of that. But for me, I follow a lot of different immigration organizations on my various social media platforms, and that kind of helps me. There's, I mean, the ACLU posts a lot about immigration. So if you follow the ACLU, you can see those kinds of things at the federal level. You can follow CWS, which is our national affiliate, our Refugee Resettlement affiliate, Church World Service. You can follow the NIJC, the National Immigrant Justice Center, or Clinic, the Catholic Legal Immigration Network. What else do we follow that's helpful?
NILC, the National Immigrant Law Center.
Mm-hmm. Those are all really good. Immigration equality is immigration as it relates to LGBTQI folks. So that's a good one to follow. I unfortunately, like, it is changing so fast that I feel like you do have to kind of follow multiple groups to see what's really happening. We get emails from like the Federal Register every time they put in a new rule change that needs comment. And we get notifications from USCIS as well. But that is really boring. If you don't want to do that, that's okay.
Mary Cobb also put in the chat box migratory notes email list. Another great place.
Lindsay, do we have time for one more questions for this CRC, because we're already 2 minutes over?
Yes, one last question is fine.
All right, Dominique, last question is for you. For food delivery for people who have COVID, they just have to call directly the CRC phone number, and is this for any immigrant or refugee family?
Let me unmute Dominique.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That makes it easier to talk. Yes, sorry. Well, they would need to call CRC, and then we're just in the beginning stages of getting together a group of volunteers. So I would say please have limited expectations for us for the next week or two as we get our system going. But we would be able to get food delivered only to people who who would be our normal clients, which is immigrants who don't qualify for forms of government assistance and who have COVID-19. So this is it's a small niche, although sadly growing every day. Last week we had 2 COVID families. This week we have 6, or actually 7. Next week we'll probably have 12 or 15. And we're assembling the volunteer force to deliver things. So if we can't do it, we will then refer them probably to the Nest, which also has some ability to deliver God's pantry food when people can't get to places. So I wouldn't say send us 100 people. We don't have that infrastructure. But if you have people who need also other forms of assistance, definitely send them to us and we will connect them with food.
All right, thank you so much. Lindsay, I guess we have to close out now.
Yes, thank you all so much for attending this session. And I really appreciate all of our attorney friends hopping on here. It was great information. We've been asked to create a spreadsheet or some kind of flyer with your contact information and just a little blurb about, which services you can provide. So we'll be working on that. We can put that on our website. And again, thank you all. And thank you, Natalie. Stellar job.
It's been my pleasure. And thank you for everybody attending through video and for all the questions posed and some answers provided. Thank you.
All right. We will take a short break in the conference so everybody can go grab some lunch, and we'll see you back here for the 3rd session at 12:30.
Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.